Have you come to see the light? What was that? Let me introduce myself. I am Alucard. Life begins in darkness.
What was that? That was the voice of Robbie Belgrade for the LeCarde Chronicles 2, which should be out probably by the time you're listening to this. It's a fan-made PC game. If you want to learn more about it, just simply Google LeCarde Chronicles 2. This is not a paid spot. It just looks extremely interesting to me, and I wanted to share it with everyone.
Welcome, Iga's Army of the Night, to the Bloodstained Community Podcast. I'm your host, purifyweirdsoul, and with me I have Zombie Mike. Say hi, Mike.
Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure and honor to appear on the show.
So you may feel like something's off about this setup, and that's because today we're doing the Bloodstained inverted broadcast, actually, and we are finally learning more about our host, our enigmatic admin. Mike has done a lot of great work for us, including these informative podcasts themselves. So I think he deserves a bit of our attention. And by the way, later we're going to be discussing the new update and characters and also some in-depth Bloodstained discussion and speculation. And before I go much further, I want to go ahead and thank Mike for this opportunity to do this. And also just thank, man, for all the work that you've done for the community and development of the game too. It's just been awesome.
Hey, my pleasure. And coming to you sitting on the ceiling here in this inverted episode. It was a great idea.
Yeah, so this will be a bit more, introspective than, some podcasts we may have done in the past. Like, we're going to really focus on the game and about, us as, the community. So I'll go ahead and start off this interview. Mike, what inspired you exactly to create the forum?
Well, the forum came from a need. There towards the end of the Kickstarter, if you look at, Kick Track, you can see that the amount of comments per day ramped up there at the end. Iga just did a Twitch stream from Croatia, yeah. That reminded me exactly why we needed a better place to put, useful information out there. Not every comment that was going out there was something that you would want to revisit, but there's a lot of things on there, a lot of great stuff that people would want to discuss, and you can't create a thread of a topic that's not going to get derailed in a Kickstarter chat, because it's all just one linear thing. It's not organized, it's not searchable. So, I created the forum, as a free, it was hosted by a place that, of course, they're going to put ads on it. But it was just some place that the fans could go to have a little bit more of an organized conversation. And, whenever Kickstarter kind of ends for a project, that the comment page will be rarely visited. So having another format to where someone can come in as a member, they can see the posts that were marked unread.
Yeah,
it's just a lot easier to step into if they had a format that could be offered by a forum. Forums are so 90s and stuff, but I think they're completely still relevant. Probably the next best thing to a forum would be Reddit or like a Facebook group or Facebook page, and all of those things are still really great for it as well. I didn't use Reddit until Bloodstained. I used it because of Bloodstained, and it has a great Reddit too. That was created fairly on as well. But I just created it because there was a need for it. So
I definitely agree with that, because the Kickstarter comments section had a lot of great thoughts and comments in there, and like you say, it's really not intuitive as far as following discussions and it being organized. So that definitely was a need, and it's a good thing you did that when you did, because it was actually during the campaign. that the forum went up, and a lot of us came from the comments section. It was nice seeing those people and recognizing some of those names and some of those avatars, some of those faces from the comments, because that's where it all started as the community. We kind of grew from that, and that was really neat.
Yeah, I had never been part of something quite like it. Just all the hype during the Kickstarter, it made us all feel like this really awesome group that was working together to unlock these backer achievements, to push something that we all loved mutually, like as far as we could possibly push it up into the light so that other people could see it. And I just wanted to continue that spark. Of course, once a Kickstarter ends, some people disappear until the game comes out. That's the way a lot of Kickstarters work. But I wanted to take, just that core group of really cool people that we all got to, we all found out that we all loved the same thing in common, and appreciated EGA. So coming together in a community, it just felt like the right thing to do. And of course, if it wasn't for the great people that were telling people to come to the forums and that helped to get that started and running, we wouldn't have it, or hopefully someone else would have done it. But I would think that probably like Reddit or Castlevania Dungeon, I would hope that somebody would take enough ownership to try to build that community.
Well, I can't imagine anyone else would have put as much work into it as you have, because there's like the secret codes, the plugins, the work you did with the organization of the board, the different projects you've undergone since the board, which we're going to talk about. So I really appreciate all that work. And like you said, we were really part of something bigger there, it felt like we were all in something together. We had a sense of community more than any other fan community I've ever been a part of. Like anything that I've ever seen before. I've never known a game development to have that kind of community involvement and backing behind it, and it's really thanks to Benja, to Fangamer, and to Iga himself for getting that going and making it a thing. And it was just awesome. It's been awesome. It's still awesome. So to move on, let's go to this next question here, which relates to what I was just saying. You have not been just an admin, but basically the most active member present. You have the most posts, and you're very passionate about incorporating design details, secrets, plugins, and unique features into the forum. So what drives your passion still after all this time?
Basically, I didn't want the hype to completely fall off. So always trying to continually improve the experience, to give forum members a new reason to come in every day and just kind of check out what's going on and contribute, their voice to whatever's going on at the time. All of those things just sprung up from I either saw a need that needed to be met, or I realized that there was something that could be done to make it better. So when I see when I see something could be done and no one else is going to do it, I just take it upon myself to try to do it, or find someone else that's good at it that can do so. So
you're great at that, man. I've definitely noticed that.
Probably the first big thing was the forums that were hosted for us. They come with these templates and stuff, and all of their CSS coding for the way it all looks. It was something completely new to me. SML, back when he was first with us, he took the major control of the way everything looked. And then once he left, we were really just kind of open to getting some new look. This was back when the forums were first becoming official, and Fangamer was scheduled and slated to do that fresh coat of paint for us. But in that intermediate area, it was all just me, and I might know a little Photoshop, but I've never really made much of a web page or anything. So all of that was brand new to me, and getting all of that worked out was kind of in panic mode, because I didn't want it to look super basic straight off the bat. I wanted it to look as good as possible, as soon as possible. So that was really interesting and a new experience for me, and I find I really like it. We've made several themes since then. We have the Cursed theme, which I really liked, and then we've got this new one that Fatigue Gerdal. The demo menu. It's got a visual design that's kind of the same as the demo menu when you press start and pause the game and go into your inventory and all that. So we tried to make it look like that. Most of that was all just straight out of Fatigue's head, and he made a Photoshop image of what he thought it would look cool as, and I just did my best to use the elements that he was suggesting and incorporated it into HTML and everything. So although he kind of designed the layout, I'm the one that kind of made it work and chopped up all the images to get them to look right. But Fatigue Girdal has his own development that he does for games. He's done a lot of cool like tweaks for the demo to where you could play as a character that has a different skin, or Vipar has a different skin. He was really changing, kind of hacking the demo as best as he could to make it look different, and showing the things that we could do, modding it on our end. So if you want to see his stuff, just look him up on the forums, and you'll find his YouTube and everything from there. But I also follow him on Twitter.
I believe that's Fatihg is how he spells his name, right?
That sounds right.
yeah, I think so. It's not fatigue as in like the the actual spelling fatigue. I think it's Fatihg. And like we were just saying, the menu themes for the Bloodstained forums that we have, I love the demo theme. And if you're interested in using those, if you have an account on the forum, you can get to that by clicking Profile and the sub tab Settings, and it'll be about halfway down. And there's a few choices. You have Cursed, Demo Menu, and Official.
Yeah, the official one is the Fangamer one. They made that for us.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense how that all worked out with SML and yourself and Fangamer. Now that we have this actually new information about how we have the website coming, the backer exclusive website, and I can see how they would want to have everything kind of lined up officially to how they want it to look, earlier as opposed to later, because they were working on that website even back then maybe, so they didn't want like the user stuff to clash with the things they were making for the site, even back then, I imagine. But even with that, you were able to do your own thing, and I imagine that influenced what they wanted to do. And I wonder, actually, if even what you were able to do allowed them to kind of ease up on the things that they wanted to do with the website and said, well, Zombie Mike has got it handled. We can back up a little bit. But yeah. I don't know, but that's a possibility.
Yeah, well, when Ben first approached us, he was like, "Hey, we want to make your place official, but we kind of want to own the keys to it. So if anything happens to you, that we have this." So in that transition and stuff, I think that once they saw that all needs were being met by the Kickstarter, Fangamer being extremely responsive to any questions sent to them via the Kickstarter or email, the many ways that you can get it in contact with Steve. Yeah. And the forum, all of those things kind of met the needs that a website would, and that's why I don't think that they're all of that, that the needs are being met, so they're really not going to push a lot of resources at getting that done right now.
Right.
And as far as being backer exclusive, I know that the translator during this, the interview with Iga, the beachside in Croatia, the translator mentioned that a backer exclusive website was in the works, but I don't know how exclusive it will be. The philosophy for the official forums has always been to leave it open to the public. That way, new fans, as they come along, we've seen several people say, "Oh man, I wish I would have backed this," and we're like, "Well, you can still back it, So if they were cut off from that would have been, a few less backers that we'd have.
Yeah, and by the way, to back is igavania.com/back. I've got that memorized, and I post it all the time.
Yeah, so, even if they just go to igavania.com, there's a pledge button up at the top.
Yeah, there you go. And that pulls up the all of the Kickstarter information, too, is on that page. So if you want to refresh yourself of, the milestones, things that happened, and all that kind of stuff. And, like you were saying, things really came together for the needs of the community. We really did that. Most of the community was able to meet the community's needs. So that was it's really awesome how that's worked out. And I think it's really cool how that relates to an indie project like the Kickstarter itself. How we can kind of be self-sustaining as far as that goes, because it kind of plays into the thought and the idea of being an indie project. We're kind of helping each other and building the team up as they work. So we're letting them focus on making the game instead of having to do all this with the negative feedback and whatnot. Because that was another part of the interview they had. They mentioned negative message board feedback, and I think we've been really good on the board about handling that and allowing and actually encouraging those comments to come out so that we can hear those. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that a game lives and dies by its community, especially, of course, a Kickstarter game, an indie game. when the community's gone and it dries up, the game does too. So as long as there's an active community, it's really nice. We're very fortunate to have a mature community that can carry on discussions that when people don't exactly agree on something, they don't have to personally insult the other person for it. And in that interview that you were just talking about, that we mentioned a few times now, if you guys want to see that, that's still on Twitch. But Iga mentioned that as far as feedback goes, like he's aware of what we're saying, but he's going to do his own thing. So it's very much his own game, and he doesn't want to, just do every little whim that we as backers and fans want. He's going to make it his game and make it fun for him to create and play, and then that should be a fun game for that reason.
Yeah, and he's the creator. It's almost like, God the creator. We think we know what we want, but we really don't know what we want. Like he was saying in that interview too, like we really focus on Westerners really focus on the technical details of a game and like the frame data of it and the exact responsiveness of certain things, being able to cancel into certain things, the movement being just a certain way, and we may not realize at the time that plays into the fun or the lack of fun or like the other mechanics in the game, and we just tend to hyper focus on details and we can't see the forest because we don't know exactly what the game is like in general. So the creator knows best, and we really can't it might seem like a cop-out to say that and to think that, but like we're putting too much faith into him, but really I think that he has a really good handle on the situation. And from playing the demo myself, I mean, I think he's pretty much got the controls and most things handled pretty well. So I'll move on to the next question here. So what we're doing right now, the BCB, what inspired that?
Well, I had gotten into some podcasts. Podcast was new to me when I moved here to where I'm currently located at the job that I'm working at now. I had never had podcasts before that, so when I got here, I was open to looking into listening to some podcasts because my desk job allows me to kind of just listen to something in the background and some headphones while I work. So it's a great way to occupy time. I got to be a big fan of several things. One of those things is Pixel Tunes Radio. Mike Tendo's been a guest of mine before. I'm a big fan of Ed Wilson, Ruiner9. Those are the hosts for Pixel Tunes Radio, and they had a great Facebook group. I said had, but they still do. I really enjoy it. It's probably my favorite. Those guys were the ones, someone in that group had posted the link to the Double Fine Let's Play, Devs Play, for when Ben and Iga sat down with Double Fine and played Symphony and gave commentary and stuff on that. And that was the spark. That was the, hey, Iga's in America right now, heads up, this is about to happen. And it did. So they announced the Kickstarter shortly after that, and it's because of Pixel Tunes. That's how I kind of got in on the whole Kickstarter. It's ridiculous to think, but I could have missed it if it wasn't for them.
Wow. And
a podcast just started becoming a daily part of my life, and I realized it's just as simple as just setting up a few things on, press the right buttons and the right combinations on your keyboard and get a microphone, and boom, you're ready to rock. So I think that there's the podcast that we had when the campaign was live. Ben did that with the Playism guys. Playism wanted to do their own podcast. It only got like a couple episodes into it after the Kickstarter was done, and it had nothing to do with Bloodstained. So I'm like, okay, that's something that I miss. I liked that. I looked forward to that, and now I don't have it. So I thought it had value to the community, and if no one else is going to do it, I'm going to do it. So
yeah, like you were just saying, like if nobody else is doing it, all right, I'm going to do it. And that's again, we're very thankful that you did that. And I've actually looked into Pixel Tunes myself. They seem like a great bunch of guys, and we're going to be talking about Ruiner9's work very shortly regarding music. But overall, I would really say that I think maybe the Bloodstained community broadcast is my favorite work that you've done, because I didn't listen to podcasts at all until you did this, and I was like, wow, this is really good. We got really good information out of these episodes with Mana and Binjad. Especially those two are really my favorites, and there's a lot of really cool information that people might be missing out on if they haven't heard those episodes, and it's a really good look into the ins and outs of what's going on with Iga when you talk to Mana, and Ben has just amazing insight into the industry that we really wouldn't consider otherwise, and he's got those truth bombs, he's got those reality bombs,
yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty hard. They're like like pretty atomic. But thank the Lord, we have Ben, we have Mana, we have Fangamer to be the people that they are and to make everything happen as it has, as well as you yourself, sir.
Yeah, well, I never expected the BCB to have any kind of exclusive information or info drops or anything like that. It just, it turned out with the first episode, Dan from Fangamer was willing to come on and talk, so it seemed like anyone that I asked, they were just willing to. And my original intention was just to have folks like you and me, fans that wanted to talk about what's going on currently in the development of the game. And then lo and behold, we actually have, people that are involved in the project that would be willing to talk. So we still have good people lined up for the future for that. Personally, I like talking with just fans, just like me and you, just as much as I do them. Of course, they make me a little bit more nervous, and with you, I can talk openly.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember too, like they're nervous themselves. Well, Mana's nervous herself. She's gotten a lot better about that.
Absolutely.
But, and she's done great, and I want to talk about her role a little bit later as well. But yeah, man, thanks a lot. And we appreciate it. I'm looking forward to those guests, and like you said, it's been really great getting those extra details. And again, I encourage everyone to check those out if they're able.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I don't do more of them. It's just that life has its thing, and if nothing astounding is going on with Bloodstained, I really don't have much to talk about. So this recent gap is because Adi Shankar was he's doing the Castlevania animated series. If no one's heard about that, what rock have you been under? I have good news for you. Adi Shankar will be creating, he's directing a Warren Ellis written animated series for Netflix for Castlevania. They got the rights for that a long time ago before Konami turned into what they are right now. So he's got a lot of hopes for all of us. I reached out to him on his Facebook page, and he wanted to be on the show. It's been more complicated than that, and he's just going to be answering questions, I believe, through text until maybe sometime in the future after the animated series has come out. So in the midst of all that, I thought I would have an episode in between this one and the last one we did, but things happen.
Yeah, he probably has some NDA issues, things he can't really talk about yet, and I think he might have more availability after the series is out. And we're going to talk about that a little later in this episode about the Castlevania series, because I am really excited about that because I'm a huge Dracula's Curse fan, and it seems to be based around that story. And as well as Warren Ellis is a veteran comic book writer. He's worked for DC, Marvel. He wrote Astonishing X-Men not too long ago. So he's done a lot of cool work, and Warren is I haven't read his comics myself, but I mean I'm very familiar with most of the work that he's been involved in, and Adi Shankar himself has done some really cool project as well. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, so moving on to music here, and I know music is a big part of your life with games and whatnot.
Absolutely.
You're deep into that game music stuff, man. What started that off?
Well, I've always kind of liked game music, and there came this point to where it's like, is this something that I would listen to in my spare time? And how that all happened, I guess, was kind of weird, because I didn't start out, like even as a young kid playing video games, I never thought, man, this is something I should just go and try to record on a tape and then play in my my tape player. But then when like Redbook Audio started appearing on PlayStation CDs and stuff, and then you could put like Symphony of the Night in your CD player and it played the music, things changed. I was like, oh, I can actually listen to this music on its own. And it was around that time that I started grabbing some songs off LimeWire and stuff, these rips for video games. Yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah, I have a few tracks here and there that I'll listen to. But it really didn't take off and explode into full, like, I listen to video game music as one of my main genres during my day and stuff until I don't even remember how exactly I got involved with Pixel Tunes Radio. But I found them somehow, and all they do is host video game music. They talk about the composers and the history of the game, and then they'll play a track, talk about what they like about it and why they chose to play it. And that really just turned me on to the whole world of VGM. And, I was a huge Castlevania nut. So Castlevania has the best music out of all games, in my opinion. And I just started going through all of those soundtracks and loving those. So I made them part of my daily life.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds pretty similar to me. You mentioning LimeWire reminds me of, all those random ones, like starting with Napster, then you had LimeWire, you had Kazaa, you had BearShare, you had all these other random, like, file sharing networks that, were of questionable security, and that was an interesting time back. We didn't even think about it being illegal back then. We were like, oh, this is a new thing. I was doing that in middle school with Napster, and at first I was downloading Metallica songs, which is funny because Metallica versus Napster is like a huge thing, and that's the first stuff I was getting was Metallica. But wow. And then eventually, I was like, I thought about well, can I get
don't tell Lars.
I won't tell
Lars.
Lars.
If you're listening, leave Purify Weird Soul alone.
Mr. Ulrich, you don't know who I am, so don't worry about it, man. So I was looking at game stuff too. Like eventually, I was like, "Can I find game music on here?" And you'd find like really random MP3s. A lot of times they would be misnamed, or like they wouldn't actually be what you were looking for. They might even be like some like garbage data, or maybe even a virus or whatever. But once in a while, you'd find a game song. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was really into the Symphony soundtrack. Of course, that's probably some of the first game stuff I tried to get. And I remember I needed some money, and me and my brother always sold our games to get more games because we didn't have money coming in. We didn't have an allowance. So I sold my greatest hits, Symphony of the Night, on eBay. Oh. And as a bonus to it, I included a burnt CD with Castlevania music on it. Nice. And I mentioned it in the description. I was like, hey, get this bonus, you got these Castlevania songs and whatnot. And I forgot when I shipped it out, it actually had like some Queensryche stuff on it too. So like other actual band music was on the CD. The late 90s, early 2000s were a different time. And I regret selling that thing, but that's how it was back in the day. I didn't know much about how else I could do that. Like I couldn't even sell it to an individual because I hardly knew other people that played games. But yeah, it's game music is great for me. I think I had a similar situation, but now and even back then, I think I listened to game music more than regular music, and definitely now. And my friends pick on me about that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, they're like, "Why are you listening to Mario Brothers? Is that what you're listening to?" I'm like, "No. There's so much more. Every system has its own sound. It's like." You just got to give it a chance. There's some music that I could play people and not tell them it's video game music, and they would be like, "Oh yeah, this is great."
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, and a lot of people don't know about that. Now, but I really enjoy how, like, Video Games Live and other groups like that, they really endeavor to bring the world of game music to the not just us as fans, but like the wider audiences, to prove that game music has art behind it. And there's even like exhibits and people that are all about that, like putting that word out there that hey, game music is more than just about the games. And that's been I've actually been to a few of those concerts, and I believe Brainiac is involved with them too. So if anyone out there has a chance to see a game music concert in person, I highly recommend it. And they are much bigger productions than you might think they are, so you should definitely check that out. Let's see. Otherwise, let's go on to the next question. So this is related, of course. You have undertaken updating or uploading a lot of Castlevania music at a higher quality standard. What brought that about?
Once again, Pixel Tunes Radio. Ed Wilson, also known as Ruiner9, he rips his own game music. So anything that's like Redbook Audio, like Symphony, you can probably find out there just the same quality. But if you want like old Nintendo and stuff, and he likes to put it in stereo. So he'll actually go through and master it in a stereo style to where it's got the correct panning and stuff. I say correct. If you want correct, like if you're really true with it, it's not in stereo. Old NES stuff has no stereo capabilities. But the way that he's done it, I love it. It makes it a better experience for me, and that's the only thing that matters to me personally. And he's got that out there for like the Famicom versions and like Simon's Quest and all that. So he's just leagues above anything else that I've found, and I've tried to get it all out there. Not just all this Castlevania music, but all of his collection. He's got gigabytes and gigabytes of game music that he's ripped. I'll never be able to catch up. But as far as all of his Castlevania stuff, I've already got it all up on YouTube from him. If you search Ruiner9, it'll ask you if did you mean to search for like Runner9 or something. But you can find his YouTube, it's really my YouTube. I just got his permission to upload it all there. But there's a lot of like PC-88 and old music that is rare that I try to get up there because you won't find it anywhere else on YouTube. But getting his Castlevania collection there was important to me just because of the quality of it, the stereo. It's just better than you're gonna find out there.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've listened. I remember you sent me some links a while back, and even before that, I could listen to separate YouTube videos of the same song, and Ruiner 9's versions are obviously superior. It just sounds better. Like, even for the Harmony of Dissonance tracks, it sounds better. It's just clearer. Like, sometimes it brings out the artifact, and like the system noise isn't there, which may like enhance it for certain users, certain players, but it's more just the pure audio from the game, and it's been really good for me, and I enjoy again that you did that, and I think everyone should check that out if they're a Castlevania music enthusiast, because a lot of us do use YouTube to play music because it kind of cycles through playlists and whatnot. So I would definitely recommend everybody check that out because it's the highest quality I've found. So thank you for that.
Yeah, going through some of those, it was really surprising because when I heard Harmony of Dissonance, I had been used to hearing it differently for so long that I actually prefer the less quality version of it.
Exactly. That's what I was just talking about. It's almost like I had a comparison for this, but it's almost like playing like an old NES game with the scan lines on a CRT television. Like, that gave us a different fuzzy experience when we were kids that we remember differently than we would if we play on an LCD screen with an emulator. It's just not the same, and that's why they try to emulate scan lines on modern ports of old games to kind of bring back that feeling with like the CRT kind of like zoomed out. You have the fuzziness. They're trying to like put filters on it. You got the scan lines. Even kind of the curve of the CRT sometimes they put on, or like a cabinet view from an arcade game sometimes, but they incorporate that as well. So the fuzziness of it and the scan lines of it is kind of like, I kind of equate that to the audio experience you would have gotten from Harmony of Dissonance, like the game playing the music from those speakers and being kind of a fuzzy thing. Like that's your nostalgic experience. That's what you remember of the game, and not like the pure unadulterated just ripped audio of it, just enhanced in stereo to where you can hear exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's about what it is. But so I'll move on here to and this is gonna be tough. I think you were researching this a bit. What are some of your favorite non-Vania game music artists and pieces, though?
Oh, Non-Vania. Oh, I had been preparing for the wrong question.
Hold on. Okay. Actually, let's start with that first. Related to that, what are some of your favorite Castlevania pieces? Has the process of going through Ruiner 9's uploads given you any new favorites?
Oh, absolutely. I didn't have a Game Boy growing up, so when I heard Belmont's Revenge, I flipped because it's now one of my favorite Castlevania soundtracks of all time. I love the Game Boy sound, and I think that's why a lot of like chiptune guys will use that as their instrument of choice. I just love the Game Boy sound, the music, like Union's probably my favorite track on Belmont's Revenge. But yeah, there's just so much Castlevania music that I love. That was definitely one that, if it wasn't for uploading that stuff to YouTube, that I might have missed out on.
Yeah, for sure. That's an interesting choice too, because you don't hear much about that game. I myself have not played the Game Boy games. Those are a few of the Castlevanias I have not played. But what I've actually heard of the Game Boy games is from that big Akuma Joe Dracula music box collection that was like $200 several years ago. I have the music from that, and some of the Game Boy music is on that. And when I listen to it, I'm like, man, these compositions are really good.
They are.
And,
they are amazing.
And I would have never known that because, like, you don't equate the idea of the Game Boy with, like, strong musical composition. But it's Castlevania, so of course it's good.
And I love that every Castlevania game can have its own, like...
unique sound.
Yeah, the composers compose so well. But, like, throughout that one game, it is so cohesive. And yet they bring back the elements from the music of the past, and they do stuff with that, and it just works so well across the entire game series.
Indeed. So everybody out there, you have a job. Check out Belmont's Revenge and check out that music. And I'll tag on to this myself. I don't think people give much attention to the Dracula X Chronicles versions of the Rondo soundtrack, and that was actually a different composer than we've had in the past. That stuff is pretty good. Castlevania Judgment, that music is very good. The game itself, maybe questionable, but the music is amazing. And and even like Brainiac likes to talk about the patch slot games, and those have pretty decent music too. So there's a lot out there you may have not heard that is very good. And really nothing is bad is the thing, right? Like, what Castlevania game has bad music? Like,
Kid Dracula.
Well, yeah, all right, let's not include that. Yeah. Whenever Kid Drac comes up in the playlist in the Discord, Mike is like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah,
but the game itself is kind of silly too. But we can credit Kid Dracula to being the initial appearance of our favorite giant dinosaur demon friend, Galamoth.
Yeah.
So we have that.
All
too.
praise, Galamoth.
Hey, thanks, Galamoth.
Our favorite forum boss.
Yeah, he's a very active guy. He seems like a really nice dude too. So big ups to Galamoth.
Yeah, you said that I had the most posts earlier, but I don't know about that. I think it might be him.
Oh no, man, you've got the most. I think you've got like 2,300 or something.
Huh.
Galamoth is pretty high up there. I think he has the highest like forum rank that's not Ancient Legion. Like, he's got like the some ancient guardian type thing or something, which makes sense for his for who he is. But anyways,
that's quite fitting, huh?
Yeah, it is. So this is the question I prepped you for accidentally before. Maybe you've had some time to go over this in your mind. Non-Vania game music artists and pieces.
Oh man. Okay, so that is
Final
an
Fantasy?
extremely tough question. Yeah, Nobu Uematsu's music for the Final Fantasy series, in particular Final Fantasy VI. I know that soundtrack borrows a lot of previous music to the series, but the way it's presented there and the nostalgia that it comes along with one of my favorite games, that's probably head and shoulders above, I would say, 90% of the rest of the VGM I listen to. I just love it so much. And then there's always the classics, like all of the Mega Man music is amazing. The Ninja Gaiden music's probably some of my favorite.
Ninjavania.
Ninjavania. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there. There's a lot of surprise stuff that you're like, I can't believe this is something that I'd listen to. Like, all the Tim Fallen stuff is a bunch of crazy Silver Surfer. Who liked that game? No one. But the soundtrack's amazing. So one of my other favorite composers is Neil Baldwin. If you've never heard of the soundtrack for Magician on NES, you don't have to go play the game, but you should at least check out his composition for that, because that's an excellent soundtrack, and it's very old school. The stuff he was doing was amazing back then. I've got a lot of other favorites too. Barry Leach is another composer that I really admire. I've heard a lot of good interviews with him, and Barry Leach, he did some kind of crossover stuff, because Neil Baldwin and him have both done Hero Quest soundtracks, and that was a board game I used to love. I know they made several versions of it, like on Amiga and NES. I don't think that maybe the NES one got released, but both Neil Baldwin and Barry Leach have done soundtracks for that. I really thought that was good.
Okay, one more
great composer, if I had to choose one. Of course, I haven't mentioned Michiru Yamane. Of course, she's one of my favorites, but anything she does, I love. But
right.
The Shadowgate soundtrack, I really like that. I've listened to that quite a bit too. And he's been on Pixel Tunes Radio's Facebook group. He's a member. So's Yamane, that she is as well. A lot of good composers are members of that group. But yeah, I just love VGM. It's just one of my things.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely with you there, and I've gotten really into the remix community myself, and all the different takes on game music that the communities have done for those, like with OC Remix, VG Mix, and Dwelling of Duels, and some other groups that do game music remix compositions, and those have been really a big part of my listening experience. I think half of what I listen to is a remix of something, but of course I love the original versions of things as well. And to go off of what you were saying earlier about Final Fantasy VI, that's one of my favorite games of all time, and like you said, the audio from that game is head and shoulders above anything that came before it, and still most anything after it to me. And I don't even think it was that derivative or used much from Final Fantasy before. I mean, maybe just the Victory song, and
you would be surprised.
Oh, really? Like, I haven't listened to much. I'm familiar with Final Fantasy 2 and 3 in Japan, but I don't know much about their soundtracks otherwise, just a few tracks. But Final Fantasy VI music in general is very memorable. And when I hear something like Forever Rachel come up, it'll make me cry just instantly.
Yeah, I love Forever Rachel. It's one of the best.
It's so emotional, and the song "Searching for Friends."
Oh like yes, definitely, man. You're naming the best ones.
The second airship song, I hear that like when I'm like going to work or whatever, and I'll just immediately start thinking about like my relationships with my friends I haven't seen in a while, and it's just such a powerful song to me. Like it's so good. And beyond that, we have probably the best final boss theme of all time, Dancing Mad.
Yeah. So, loads of great music. Nobuo Uematsu is a genius.
Yeah. So we could talk about Final Fantasy VI for the rest of the day, but let's go on to some Igavania here. What are your favorite Castlevania games? This includes Classicvania, Igavania, and which games have you not played yet and want to?
There are so many that I want to play. I played Simon's 2 as a child, and I really loved it. I did not know how, quote, terrible it was. If you were to ask someone like, the game nerd, he would say it's a shit game. But, back then we had different standards as kids. Was it way too hard? Yeah, but I had the power, man. I had Nintendo power. So,
you had to have the power to beat that game.
Right. And I spent a lot of time with it, even though I had codes and I had everything, I loved playing that game. So I didn't beat it legitimately when I was a kid, but I still loved the experience of running around as Simon Belmont whipping people with flame whips. That's just awesome. So, that was my Classicvania experience, and that was my entire Castlevania experience until I was an adult. I had a friend that was telling me in, I think it was, 2006, maybe a little bit before that. It was right around when Portrait was about to come out. He said, you've never played Symphony of the Night? What's wrong with you? And he loaned me his copy. I played it, and then I went back and played all of Iga's portable games, all of his Igavania games. I missed Circle of the Moon, and coincidentally, he didn't do that one. I didn't do that on purpose, but I'd like to one day play Circle of the Moon. When it comes to Classicvania versus Igavania, I like both. I've played a lot more Igavanias. I appreciate the Classicvanias because of what they did for video games, what they did, to set up what Castlevania would become, and mostly for the music. I think that I probably enjoy the older chip music than the more orchestrated type tracks. But that's where my love of the Classicvanias come in. I love playing a good Igavania game. Symphony's by far and away probably the best. Only Order of Ecclesia could probably top that. So both of those are up there because by the time that Iga did Order, he had enough time to know what works, what doesn't work, and he was obviously trying to do something new. This is set outside of the timeline. It can stand on its own. Has a female lead. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. I mean, this is like a great prelude to what Bloodstained would be, and it happens to be probably technically the best Vania game.
That is exactly something I wanted to cover in this podcast, actually, regarding Order of Ecclesia and Bloodstained. Order of Ecclesia isn't just a great example of a Castlevania game, not per se having much to do with the established franchise. That is a great entry in the series. Mm-hmm. Order of Ecclesia doesn't have much to do with the legacy of the Belmont family. Just a plot point is that the villagers were descendants of the Belmonts, but Shanoa herself and the other characters and the bosses and whatnot, everything is outside of the standard Castlevania experience, and it's one of the best games in the series. So that just speaks to the strength of what Bloodstained could be. It doesn't have to really lean on Castlevania, because Order of Ecclesia didn't either, and it was an amazing game.
And it's still just on a handheld system. So now Iga has the ability to work on the big screen again and actually put some power behind, some technical power behind a game. I mean, Ecclesia didn't have familiars, right? I'm sure that there's other aspects that Symphony had that were missed, and we can get back to now.
Yeah, well, it had familiars in a certain way, kind of like how Dawn of Sorrow and Aria of Sorrow had familiars, but not really like Symphony familiars, where they were as big a part of the experience, and they had little unique touches like the Symphony familiars did, like the Fairy Song and the Sword Brothers spell, and all these other cool things that Symphony had.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I definitely agree with you there, and just to add on to that, my classic Vania experience is kind of like that. I played Castlevania 1 and 3. Somehow I didn't play 2. But for me, it was like I equate Castlevania 1 and Castlevania 3 to like Mario 1 and Mario 3. I think that Castlevania 3 is just like more better everything. And I didn't play Rondo, but that game is amazing, and that's one of my favorites too. I also love Igavania equally as those games. So I would say Castlevania 3, Rondo, Symphony, Order, and Portrait of Ruin are probably my top 5. And like you said earlier about Order of Ecclesia being kind of above Symphony, I do think that Ecclesia is like almost objectively a stronger game than Symphony, because he learned so many things and he improved so many systems, and the game is just more balanced as far as difficulty as well. So I really think he learned over the years, and I certainly agree with you. I think we should appreciate both for what they are. It's really unfortunate when you have people that only like one type over the other, and I think they maybe should take a step back and reevaluate what they're looking at here.
Although I love the soundtracks, I've never played a 3D Iga Castlevania game. And it's amazing because I've always wanted to. So they're definitely on the things that are on my bucket list. But Lament of Innocence, I am intimately familiar with the plot with that, because that's what I've based our role-playing game off of, that you are a member of. A lot of people probably don't know that. But yeah, the lore behind Castlevania to me starts with Iga's games, and it starts with Lament of Innocence. I think there's a great span of history between when that game happens and between 3, which is the first chronological games. Those 2 games are the first chronological games in the series of Iga's telling of the story, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the main canon Castlevania timeline. So with just like intimately knowing Lament so well as a soundtrack and a plot, I definitely want to eventually play that. And Curse of Darkness, same thing. I like the soundtrack for Curse even more, and it just sounds like a good game. I can't believe I missed out on those, but it just happened to do with money and what systems I had and what games those systems could play at the time that I could play those, and it just didn't work out.
Those games actually are quite good. I mean, they had a bad rap at the time for what they said was level design, and I don't think that's per se actually fair to what the games actually are. When they say level design, what they're talking about is just kind of the hallways being kind of the same looking. When I think level design, I think of platforming and how you play through the level more than just what it visually looks like. And like Ika has said before in the past, the games look that way mostly because they didn't get the budget they really needed to push it further. Just like what happened with his Igavania games on portables. They kind of gave him what they would give him, and he had that to work with, and that was it, and that's what he had to work with. So,
well, in my personal opinion, probably it's failing forward because the mechanics didn't seem to work out all that great, and just I'm going off of what I've heard. I haven't played them, but just if they're considered I don't want to say failures, but if people didn't really run with it from that, I'm glad that it's bringing us back to him wanting to get into a side view type old school game like that. And the evolution of that, I think there's still a lot that can be done with it. I haven't played this Nier Automata game, but I was watching... Yeah, I haven't played that, but I was watching Mike Tendo from Pixeltune stream himself playing that, and they were switching between a side view action to a bullet hell type top view action, and then a 3D type shooter type over the shoulder third person angle type thing. And I was like, man, this game is combining the best of everything in gameplay, mechanics. So I could see that Castlevania could go and explore something like that, but I think the point is we need to get back to the basics of side scrolling type stuff, and Bloodstained is gonna be good for that. So I'm not saying that we should limit it to that, but it's a good. There's plenty of stuff that can still be done in a game from that perspective. So let's see what we can get from there and move forward. I think the jump to 3D for Innocence and Curse of Darkness, they were just trying to reach too far with the technology at the time.
Yeah, and like you say, we have new unfound territory with 2.5D for an Igavania game. That hasn't actually been explored much beyond Dracula X Chronicles, and that was not actually an Igavania game. That was a classic Vania game. So there's a lot they could possibly do with this, with perspective and parallax and all the different things that could come in from the background. Just like a kind of a generic example, like when you're on the demos level, the Galley Minerva, and where Vipar kind of spits out the Seamas onto the ship, like she breaks the side and like the enemies come in from the outside. And actually the Vipar boss fight itself, when she's like attacking you from the background, that would have been very difficult to draw and to do just right in a strictly 2D environment. So you have things in the background and in maybe the foreground, and elements kind of mixing together to be a 3D experience that's still 2D, and I think Iga was kind of excited to be able to do that because it's new ground for him that he hasn't been able to actually, do much with it. And as much as they love details in Symphony and Dawn and Portrait in Order of Ecclesia, as much as he loves putting in like little small touches and things like that, I'm really looking forward to what he can do with perspective and things in the background and things you might not see at first. Maybe even like puzzle solving or like clues to like other parts of the castle in the background. Maybe certain parts of the day has something in the back, and they can animate and like generate stuff easier now, so they can focus maybe more on those details in a 3D environment since they don't have to draw everything by hand. And what you were saying earlier about Lament and Curse of Darkness, I agree. I think you should check those out one of these days. And Curse of Darkness too, especially because that game has a weapons system a lot like Symphony of the Night. There's a lot of cool swords, a lot of cool weapons in general, a lot of different genres of weapons, and they all have like a unique combo to them. So it's really neat. You get a lot of cool stuff, and you have the Innocent Devil system, which is like focused on familiars. That game is about familiars, so if you like those, then you'll like it. And Lament of Innocence, of course, is also a great game. It's more of a traditional whip-based combo game, but it has like a cool sub-weapon system where you mix different colored crystals with the sub-weapons, and you get different effects depending on how you put them together. And you got cool extra characters in those games too. Of course, Curse of Darkness has Trevor Belmont, who's maybe my favorite Belmont, but I'm in love with Richter. Like, no homo, maybe homo. I love that dude. I'm a big Richter fan.
Well, he gets kissed in that, right, by a guy?
Maybe. I don't know. We're not going to talk about whatever that is. But they do talk about Vampire's Kiss. That's the Dracula X on Super Nintendo. That's the name for it in other countries. And I've always wondered, like, who's Dracula kissing? Like, I don't. What's that all about?
It's all about sucking blood.
Yeah, you're right. But we don't actually see Dracula suck all that much blood in Castlevania. He doesn't do a whole lot of that. But anyways, so of those titles we were just talking about, like your favorite classic Vanias, your favorite Igavanias, and then all these other games, of and from those titles, what elements do you hope make a return for Bloodstained?
For the Igavania games?
Yeah, or classic and Iga.
Huh. I'm expecting Symphony, and if I get it, that's great. If it's anything less, If it's anything more, hey, that's great. But it's the marker, It's like, yeah. Please just at least do this good, and you'll have a benchmark game that's amazing. Yeah,
I agree. Okay, so that's good enough. So, all right, we'll move on to some personal questions here. How has Castlevania and subsequently Bloodstained influenced your personal life?
Well, Castlevania has been a very important part of my life for a long time, because after my friend loaned me Symphony and I got like just drawn into this world of Castlevania, I ran my first DM'd game. I made a tabletop session where I invited my coworkers that included my buddy that loaned me the game. I built a game around that, and wow. I loved it. And everything about diving into researching the story and the world of Castlevania beyond what I had already known, just that research dive to make the game as good as I could get it was just life-changing to me, because at that point I was studying Castlevania down to its like darkest lore, like just any insignificant thing I could bring in, throw in the game, and people would be like, "Oh, that's cool. He got that from such and such." It's like, yes, you get the reference. Extra cool for you. And then, just while I was doing all that, the the music and
Would you give
stuff
someone inspiration if they caught a Castlevania reference? They're like, oh, yeah.
Well, no. These guys, they earned action points. It was a different system. It was from Grim Tales was the system I was using for that. But I think that it was all based off of an old Ravenloft adventure, which I've ran several times, and I've always wanted to kind of tie it to Castlevania. So it's just appropriate that now we have a 5th edition D&D version of Ravenloft that I can mash Castlevania with, and I now have all of these new friends thanks to the forums, like you and Sunraiser. They're your Castlevania fans, you can truly appreciate if I do throw good Castlevania stuff in there. But it's a mash of both. It's definitely a Ravenloft that's reskinned as a Castlevania with added plot and stuff. But do you think that the flavor of Castlevania is really hitting in this campaign that I'm currently doing with you?
I think it really, well, not many people will understand what we're talking about here, but it started out, I think, really good as far as Castlevania, because the first area we were in with the village was almost exactly like how I picture Rondo of Blood, and like with the Flaming Village and all that. And actually, the Ravenloft campaigns in general seem to be, as you've already pointed out, inspired by Castlevania, like
vice versa.
Quest.
Vice versa, yeah. Castlevania was inspired by Ravenloft.
Oh man, yeah. And like the image you posted, like the Ravenloft like cover art is like the same as the Simon's Quest, cover art. Like it's very similar.
Yeah, Konami ripped that off, just flat out ripped it off.
Oh, good old Konami. But, yeah, man, I think it's been really fun, and I think it's a good mix, too, because you don't want things to be exactly Castlevania, because that's kind of boring, too, and you might be a little bit too predictable with it, but I think the mix has been fine so far, but I'm looking forward to what you do with it in the future. And, yeah, by the way, I'm in this 5th edition D&D game that Mike is hosting with Fantasy Grounds, and, by the way, you should check out Fantasy Grounds if you're interested in playing online D&D with friends. It's actually Dungeons & Dragons. It's not like a video game. It's actually a virtual tabletop, and it's really cool.
Yeah, we're really digging it. But as far as like how Castlevania has influenced my life, it's obviously because of that reason. It's made me a huge fan to the point where it's something I think about a lot. Yeah. I have to plan and research and stuff for it. And then when Bloodstained came along, I had never put any kind of like multiple hundreds of dollars into a video game to buy it, even when it didn't exist yet. So that was a totally new thing for me. So that was that was like a big investment for me, because I wanted to see Iga succeed, and I wanted this game. I wanted it to be good. So getting in on that, and then becoming so involved with the community, thanks to the forums, thanks to this show, it's just a lot of my friends online, like you, are because of Castlevania, because it all started there. And I think that it's a major part of my life. It's a hobby that I enjoy, and I am glad to find people that also enjoy it. So it's cool to associate with those folks.
Yeah, because I know you're like me, and your day-to-day has changed quite a bit since Bloodstained has become a thing. Because when I'm at work, my productivity suffers because of this, because I'm on the forum a lot. And like especially in the early days, I would be on the Kickstarter comment section, or I'd be like when the teaser was out and they had the voting campaign, the sword or whip campaign, where you could vote for a different sword or a different whip. To like, I was voting for Katana every like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And like I didn't actually know what that was for. Like I thought it was actually going to influence like the type of game he might be making, and I was like,
it does.
I know this it does, but I was thinking it has to be Iga that's doing this, and he's like, Igavania is his thing. If I vote for a whip, it might be a classic Vania, so I need to vote for sword. And like I didn't know I could change clans, like because I'm a huge rapier fan, right? Because I love rapiers, and I don't really care about katanas. So I think that Katana might have won because of me, or like at least partially, because I was spamming that every like opportunity I could get. Awesome. And I would like read, and it had like little like cryptic messages about it too.
Well, Fangamer said that it was a big comeback for Sword at the very last minute, so it was close.
Oh man, and like Ego would like give you little cryptic sayings in the Sword or Whip messages. Like after a while, he would say certain things, and that's where I first saw that he made this comment that said, "Just so you know, 2 dimensions can't hold me. This isn't my final form." So even back then, I was like, oh man, it's going to be a 3D game. Okay, so I was prepared for that, even back then. But yeah, my day to day myself has changed a good bit because I'm all about Bloodstained every chance I can get. And like you said too, I've never given that much for a game before, and I was in for the signed collector's box. I very nearly dropped 2,000 for the Runic Forge, but it's kind of probably maybe a good thing I didn't, because I had a kidney stone that following year, and I wouldn't have been able to pay for like anything if I had done that. But I still can like think about, what if I had done that? So if they do another campaign, I'm probably going to do that.
Oh,
and,
so Bloodstained 2 is going to get more money from you? Wow.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, a Bloodstained 2 Kickstarter for me would probably not get as much, because I just can't justify every time they're going to make a game in this series dropping multiple hundreds of dollars on it. I just want to get it up on its feet, I want to prove to the industry that this has legs.
Well, you know me, I'm like a single guy with no like real responsibility, so I have this money I'm sitting on, right? And that's not exactly true. I have a lot of bills and whatever, but like if Castlevania comes along, that's almost like a significant other to me at this point. Like, okay, well, what do I care about more than Castlevania that's in my life? Well, not a whole lot.
So Miriam's your waifu then?
I didn't say that, but I do kind of want that lap pillow that Chocolate Stain posted.
Yeah, Chocolate. That was a great Photoshop. That was just brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, that was the first thing you saw one day.
That's how I started my morning. Yeah, I was seeing that post and laughing in bed. I was like, oh, this is just hilarious.
Those are those moments that we can get from having the forum. So
yeah,
it's just there you go. All right, well, hopefully I can control myself. But if I have the opportunity to design a weapon as big of a weapon buff as I am, I'm gonna probably do that next time.
Okay.
Well, talk me out of it, Mike, please.
No,
okay.
Go for it, dude.
Okay, next thing. So what do you think is one thing that others may misunderstand or not know about you that is important to get out? And did you know that things would develop as they have, and like you would be this, admin guy and doing all these projects for the game?
Oh, I had no idea. And as far as like misunderstandings or something that would be important that people need to know, there's nothing important about me. I'm just a plain old guy. But probably misunderstandings. One thing that I've found and that I had no experience in and still struggle with is forum moderation. Because I don't want to restrict free speech. I don't want to kick a backer off of a forum that's the official forum for a project that they backed on Kickstarter, because they have the right to be heard. It comes with the territory. You've got people that are going to say things that you don't like. You got people that are going to behave in ways that maybe not against the rules, but you think are negative and don't contribute anything positive to the community or the discussion at hand in a forum. So, like, all of these things are... I want people to understand, or just at least not misunderstand. I am not some kind of guy that went to college to learn how to, quote, babysit people online, unquote. I'm just a guy like you are, and I want the best for Iga, I want the best for Bloodstained, and I want the best for the community. At times that I have to enforce rules that, I actually don't have a problem enforcing rules. There's only been a couple of instances where I've had to say, hey, tone that down because of rules. More often than not, I find myself in a much stickier situation, which is someone's doing something that I don't like and that other people's don't like, but it's not against the rules, and right. I have to step in and defend someone that I normally would not defend as just a regular old poster on the forums. So, I think that, folks like Crocodile might look at me, and other folks might look at me like, why are you always defending the bad guy, And the answer is, well, they have a right to talk too, and unless they're breaking rules, maybe just, if you don't like what they're saying, just don't respond to them. And I have to be that guy. So if that creates any misunderstandings, that makes me feel bad. I don't think that I could sleep at night if someone thought that I was a big horrible pig that was doing something that that made me look like an asshole. I don't want to be an asshole. Unfortunately, some people think I'm an asshole. It just comes with the territory.
All right, spoiler alert, everybody out there. Mike is not a fat pig. He's not terrible. He's not an asshole. But we have a great mod team, though. Me and Gunlord, and of course Cecil Kane as well, and the rest. We try our best to deal with that, and I think we have a really good, objective, and open environment. And I myself, in personal life anyway, I'm really trying to be objective about things and let empathy set in and let people have their own, way to look and think about things. And I try to allow people to have their own voice, and I do that in my daily dealings because I know how, some people are ignorant, and that's just how it is, but they can't control that either. Like, it's just kind of their environment. It's what they know, and
right.
it's not even really their fault.
They don't know that they're being like that. That's just who they are.
And I'm not even one to say for sure that I know what's best either, because my environment is different than theirs.
Absolutely.
So I think it's better to allow all the discussion to happen as it will. And unless something goes egregiously wrong, where we have to put out just a giant fire on the forum, I think it's mostly going to be okay. And I can separate
and those are super rare occasions, if any.
They are. And I'm pretty good at separating my feelings from what's being said on the board too, and because I know people often say things they don't actually mean, that when they direct things at other people, it's because they're just mad about something else. Maybe their life situation is bad. Maybe they're mad about a game they just played. Maybe their significant other is arguing with them while they're typing a post. You never know. It could be anything. So I think it's really smart, and it's a really good idea to step back and say, I don't know what's going on with this person right now. All I know is me, and all I know is I can control my experience with this by taking a step back and taking it in as more objectively as an attitude. So, but I think you've done really well with that, Mike, and I know we've had some private discussions about certain things like that, and I think it's all turned out for the better. And I think going forward we're prepared for things that may be worse. And even with the the demo feedback thread, how we had some disparaging comments there, and we had some other threads that shall not be named that were kind of weird, but I think it's gone pretty well. Most of it was
constructive criticism. They were voicing their concerns honestly. It might have been the unpopular opinion, but we were still there to hear it.
We really like those unpopular opinions too, because I think it's really important to hear that, because we have this kind of this perception of the forum being like an echo chamber for positivity, and we don't really intend it to be that way. We're all mostly fans, but we really want to hear the other side as well, because that's for the health of the project. Like Iga said in that interview we were referring to in Croatia, he values the negative feedback. That's important to hear that and to address it. So it's not to our benefit to all be like, yeah, we love this game, everything's awesome, everything's great, and don't say anything bad about it, we're going to delete your comments.
Right.
That's not what we want. That's not us, no
at
sir.
all.
Yeah, we want to hear what you think, and if it's not something that we per se agree with, that's fine. We can still talk it out and have an honest discussion about it, because I think that's something that's missing from other indie projects too, and other things in general. Because the internet can be a kind of a scary place for discussing things that you like and dislike, because everyone's always scared of saying something like, I like X. Because there's always somebody hiding in the corner that's like, oh, you like that? I thought it was shit. That's always going to happen. But we try to steer around that and say, why do you think it was bad? So anyway,
there's a difference between being a positive echo chamber and being a place that's a positive place that accepts negative criticism in a positive way.
Exactly.
You can have negative criticism and still not be a negative place. Those are completely separate.
Yeah, and I think we've done pretty well with that. And we don't discourage guest posts either. We have people that don't even want to make an account maybe if they just want to drop in and say something when we value their opinions just as much as a backer that dropped $10,000 that posts 1,000 posts. Anyone has an equal opinion on the board, and we want to hear what you think. And if you're not with us right now, if you haven't joined yet, we'd love to have you. So I guess moving on then. The conclusion for this interview. Your enthusiasm for what you like seems to move you towards creation, Mike. The BCB project itself is a product of how much you enjoy podcasts, and just as with from how Castlevania and game music spurred you into action with making the forum and uploading higher quality Castlevania music. So from all these undertakings, all these projects, all these things that you've been moved to do, from all these things that inspired you and these opportunities from other people not doing them, what have you specifically learned, and what has been the most rewarding of these things?
Well, my current big thing related to Castlevania and my creativity and all that, and spawning from the forums, has been the current D&D game I'm running. That's my current love and obsession at the moment. But as far as what I've learned, I think that I never would have. I've always been interested, but never really got my hands dirty with programming. And to get some of the forum secret to work, the leaderboard for the Walmac, and getting that to do what I want it to, those are things that really just like was amazed that I could make happen. I felt like some kind of digital wizard that I could actually program some very minor things, but those first steps are big. They're accomplishments that I will always hold dear, and the fact that they're just like little secret hidden things out there that don't really matter at all. They're just extra something to do that most people won't ever even see, because who would think to initiate the certain steps that you need to see the forum secret.
But you know what's cool about that, Mike, is that's like the nature of Igavania itself. All the little like hidden touches and things that they put in Symphony of the Night. It's kind of like the board itself, what you've done with the Malmac and the secrets and the other plugins and stuff. It's just about the same thing.
Yeah, I love it. It really fits, and that probably out of what I've learned, that's a big thing. Another thing that I've learned is simply about myself, that my passion. I had this unknown passion that was just like, I want to connect people together that like the same things, and of course they're going to be the things that I like too. So, creating the Igaverse tab on the forums, where it connects the Reddit, some of the best Bloodstained Orphan, that Facebook group and page. Well, page, it's not a group, but their page is amazing. The Castlevania dungeon, just every place that is talking about Bloodstained, I want all of those people to know that there's other places where they can talk, they can make other friends out there, and that if you are just happening upon the forums and the forums aren't your thing, I want you to find the spot in the community where you shine the most. And if that's you're the best Reddit person, or you're more Castlevania, so you end up on the dungeon more, I want you to find your spot. So connecting people where they belong and where they feel they fit in, and helping a community grow is just this passion I didn't know that I had in me, and I love doing it. So, like in another life, if I wasn't like a 9-to-5 guy that just drew architectural type stuff all day, I would want to be like a community manager or someone that was, involved in getting people together and just keeping them constantly updated about stuff and
it's
pushing
great that
that hype.
It's great that you've set out to do that too, because that's kind of what the Kickstarter set out to do with Fangamer making the backer achievements. It kind of started that whole thing with all these different avenues and aspects of the social media having different parts that they would contribute. You had the cosplay people doing their community thing. You had the art.
Tumblr.
You had Tumblr. You had comics being drawn. You had
Twitter
remixes. You have music being made as well for remixes of Yamane's music.
Absolutely.
You had the Twitter. You had Facebook. You had all these different communities. Even back then, they were doing exactly what you're talking about. So even after the Kickstarter, just like with how you made the forum, you're trying to keep that going as well with the backer achievement community, like keeping everybody engaged and going. Maybe even if they're not on the forum, they can continue to be connected and continue to move forward, continue to be creative, and continue this kind of this great feeling that we get from this positive community that we have moving forward, and playing off of each other's strengths and putting out this new content, because even now we still have the fan art updates and the Kickstarter updates, and we still have the remixes posted for game music as well. So I think that's great. And speaking of the Kickstarter and what they did with the backer achievements, that was genius, and I think it really played well into what they wanted to achieve.
Yes, very well done, Fangamer. And like I said, a game lives and dies by its fandom, by its community. So I don't want it to just be depending on one place. I don't want it to be the forums. The forum serves a purpose. It's a place to collect information and post threads and stuff, But Reddit can do the same kind of thing. And I would like to see just, all of these places explode. And when the game comes out and people start seeing it, game reviews start coming out, and they're like, if you haven't played this game, you're going to miss out. This is made by one of the godfathers of his genre, and you need to get in on it. For all we know, we are just on the bare end side of something that's going to be huge. So that's my hopes anyway.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, we could be on the start of a new franchise here, and I think that might be the end game for him here. And if it goes well, and I think it's gone just about as well as it could go. I mean, I don't see anything being amiss here. Of course, we have varying opinions about the game itself, but as far as the background of what's going on, on the back end, as far as the environment of the game, I guess is what I'm really trying to say. Just the the foundation that we have, like the facilitating factors of it, are amazing, just awesome. And the people he has working with him, Ben, and of course Fangamer as well, and Mana has been amazing. So so that wraps up the interview. Anything else you want to say before we move on to talking more about Bloodstained?
Nope.
All right, interesting. So first thing, so we don't talk that much about Bloodstained as far as the in-depth details of what we want to see, what we have seen, and about like the specifics of things all that often on the podcast. So we're going to try to do that some more today. But I just mentioned Mana, so I think I'll talk a little bit about her first. And thank you, Mana, for being an awesome member of the team, and I think you've done a wonderful job so far. And her role going forward, I see, once in a while I'll see mentioned either by her or some other mention of it, how she was only signed on for 2 years with the team. From when she was brought on to, I guess, when the game was released. And I would hate to see her go. I know I don't know this for a fact, but I'm putting 2 and 2 together, and it sounds to me that she will be drawing the backer portraits.
Yeah,
for the,
I think that's obvious at this point.
It's obvious at this point if you've been following the information that's been going on. And if you don't think you're okay with that, it's because you probably haven't seen her art yet, because it's pretty amazing.
It is.
Now, I think, and I don't know if this is going to be the case or not, but I would be totally okay with the idea of Mana being... I'm kind of reluctant to say this, but I want to say it anyway. If she could be our new Ayami Kojima, I would be totally okay with that.
Oh, well, I want Ayami Kojima to be
involved
as much as possible.
Of course. I 100% agree. I think they could work in conjunction with each other and perhaps play off of each other, because the cool thing about this, too, is how she is one of us, kind of. She's from the community too. She's a fan, and she's gotten to where she is now. So it kind of plays into what we were talking about earlier with like the indie environment of how we're all coming together as the community and like being involved from the grassroots, bottom level of it. And unfortunately, it seems like Ayami Kojima couldn't contribute as much this time around. She's just doing like the packaging for the box of the game, I believe. So if there's issues in the future with getting her involved and whatnot, and of course if they don't work as closely with Inti Creates moving forward, if they have to kind of move away from that, hopefully they don't have to.
Done all of the character creation, all the designs for that. So if we got to see that switched off to Mana's hands, I think that we would see a more Kojima's got 2 styles, like her like hand drawn and like watercolor type, and then her like big portrait, like super detailed, like using the gold leaf looking art style. So I would love to see what Mana could do when it comes to character creation. Yeah.
So if Natsume-san from Inti Creates has to take a step back, if they don't use Inti as much going forward, which I would actually be fine with them doing that as well, but if they don't have to do that, if it doesn't work out with Inti, then I think Mana is a good candidate for that. I don't know if Iga has considered that. From what you've asked her in the past, it sounds like she was hired on other merits.
Right, she's just communication and community manager at this point, and apparently doing the backers' portraits. But, she is coming from outside and moving from a completely different country all the way across the world. I want what's ever best for her. If living in Japan is not going to work out for her, or if that's something that she finds she doesn't like, then I want then ArtPlay to just move to America and we can all become employees. But
yes, do it.
Yeah,
do it now.
Yeah, but I don't.
But I
don't. Yeah. She's probably doing just fine there. Last I asked, she said she had made friends and she's having a great time. But as far as her contract goes, I'm sure that Iga's going to make the best decision that works best for Bloodstained. So I trust in Iga, whether that, whatever that leads for Inti Creates or Mana or any other employee, even ArtPlay. If Iga needs to even step away from the company that he created, co-created, then so be it. I support him and I support his ideas. That's where my loyalty ultimately lies.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And I think whatever is best for her, as long as she is willing to stay where she's at and willing to work, I would hate to see her go, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'll have to, She's already beloved by the community enough to where she's an obvious fit.
Yeah. And I've been in parts of communities before where the community managers have not been the most well received, and they had to actually switch them, or they left or whatever. And Amanda's done a great job there.
Yeah, when I first talked to her, it sounded like she had aspirations to continue her talents as an artist in the game industry. So, if that's not something that she can do with art play, I want her to be able to do that wherever in the world that might lead her.
Absolutely, yeah. And I know before she was working on like mobile games and things like that, doing art for that, and that's kind of a different situation with that's kind of a contract thing too. They're paid by the piece, and I don't think she was appreciated as much as she should be from doing that. So hopefully she can find more of a traditional work, if not with art play. But all right, so moving forward from that, unless you have something else you want to say about Mana and all that.
I just hope that I can have her back on the show as soon as possible.
I agree, because I enjoy those the most. Her and Ben are great. Let's say next, let's talk some more about the Castlevania animated series and Adi Shankar. So I know you have a podcast, kind of a podcast thing lined up with him, but more just a text question and answer type thing because of what we were just discussing earlier. But I know you've taken a liking to the project. Your profile, actually, your cover photo or profile picture on Facebook is the poster now.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that poster, you should check it out because it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's a high resolution one posted on our forums that was pretty good.
Yeah, I posted that actually.
Oh yeah, well thank you, dude. It's awesome.
Yeah, it was on the Reddit actually, and I just moved it over to the forum. But so I think you have a little bit more insight onto the series itself. You seem to have a really good feeling about it.
I just like Shankar. I'm a fan of him at the moment. Like he's extremely friendly and Hollywood guy that will actually contact you and talk to you like on the phone. So
Wow.
I don't know about the project and what he's going to do with it. I have no knowledge, but just based on who he is as an individual, I'm interested and hopeful in seeing what's he's done with it. So he's personally won me over as a person, and I trust that he will do something with Castlevania that it is at least better than what Konami's been doing with the reboots and the slot machines.
Well, that won't be hard to do.
Right.
So, yeah, it's interesting how much he's engaged his audience on Facebook recently. He asks questions a lot to his audience that follow him. Constantly, yeah. And one of those things is that actually an article was written about this, how he wanted to do a Mega Man R-rated project as well. And that's a lot different than Castlevania. So
yeah, I don't know if R rating is really needed to expand Mega Man into something cool, but
Well, I think it could work really well for the later franchise, Mega Man X. I think that would fit pretty well because that's like an older adult, more grown-up Mega Man. Anyway.
I don't need Mega Man to be edgy.
Well, it's not per se edgy, but at least has characters and drama in the series anyway. There actually is like death and loss in those games, aside from just a classic Mega Man where he's shooting robots. There's some character drama in there, and it's not per se edgy, but it does have Zero in it, which is a pretty edgy guy.
Yeah.
But anyways, so that's interesting, and that's something to look forward to, and I'm looking forward to whatever you can extract from Mr. Shankar.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, he's staying in touch. There's been a few questions answered. I've posted those on the forum, and I do want to do an audio interview with him as originally planned. It's just that it will probably be after after the first season comes out, and we haven't set a date or anything, but it's something I'm interested in doing with him, and I've got his ear, so things look hopeful.
Yeah, and that's great. And I'm surprised by that too, that he was, as willing as he is to engage with you. But that just speaks to the type of guy that he is, and really trying to reach to the community and to do what they, kind of expect him. Well, I think the project is probably mostly done now, but it's really been, a nice thing to see him engage as much as he has with his fans.
I think the first season is probably done at this point, but I think Warren's probably writing the second season, according to his Twitter, I believe.
Yeah.
But I can tell. Addy is a fan of many things, many old school things, which is obvious, by looking at his Facebook. He wants to know what people would be interested in having rebooted. I don't know what led him to Castlevania specifically, but I would like to think it's because he's such a fan for it, and it meant something special to him in his past.
Yeah, well, one recent thing he brought up as well was Contra, and I think that would play pretty well to what he likes to do, because that is... extreme violence to an extreme. and it has a lot of aliens and crazy stuff in it, and just blasting the hell out of everything. So I think it could do something interesting with that. It doesn't have much to go off with story, but there again, that's why we have good writers. So maybe he could do something cool with that. But so moving on from Castlevania, the animated series, because I know we're going to talk about that more later in subsequent episodes and questions to Mr. Shankar. We have the Discord now, the Bloodstained Discord, and we haven't talked much about that on the podcast. And I just want to get the word out there that it's you can join it from the bottom of the forum. There's like a link there. You can join the Discord. And I didn't use Discord much until this was a thing. Just like the podcast, I wasn't in the podcast before this was a thing, but Discord is really cool, and it's really it integrates well with Steam, and there's multiple channels for, of course, different things you may be into, and that's how we actually conduct our role playing, and it's actually we're recording each other over Discord right now.
And it plays Castlevania music 24/7. So there's that.
yes, we have the maestro of Discord. So we have a Castlevania music bot at the in the Castlevania the Bloodstained Discord. So that's really cool too, and it's just a great environment. It's actually a pretty active chat room now as well.
Yeah, it's something that was completely new to me. Chip is the one that came onto the boards, and he's like, you guys should really do a Discord. And that's one of those things that I figured out how to incorporate it into the plug-in to incorporate who's online and what the music bot's playing there on the front page of our forum. And Paco's been a great help on there for making little program tweaks and whatnot with these music bots, getting them up and running to begin with. And he actually hosts those for us, so thank you to Paco. Discord is a great way to communicate. It's better than Skype. I like it better than Skype. There's a Discord out there for everything. So now there's one out there for Bloodstained, and it's related to some other good ones out there. There's people come in from the Harmony of Despair. To matchmake. There's that out there real time. You can chat with people and find out who wants to play. Just come on in.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed that too, because I haven't been there as much as I could be, because of course I can't go there at work, so I'm on the forum instead.
Well, it's not. You can get on your cell phone. You can get the app. That's what I use the most.
Man, don't tell me to do more Bloodstained stuff at work. I'm gonna.
No, please just moderate the forums like you and Gunlord. I need you. You're in both places, but I need you on moderation there. You guys are great. I don't know what I'd do without you.
Well, no problem, man. And whenever I see Iga come up on a Q&A, like an Ask Iga video, or I see him do an update, or he's talking to us or whatever, it's almost like I'm hearing from my the upper management boss. I feel like you're my supervisor, and Iga is the company head or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, what's new, Iga? What are we gonna do? All right, I'm ready for this. It's I'm doing 2 jobs at once almost. But of course, there's not as much to do on the forum lately, because we had a big rush with the demo release, and it's quieted down since then, but there's still a steady flow of comments.
Well, I don't know what they're doing for E3, but I have a feeling we are about to get flooded.
Yeah, I something big is coming for E3. We don't know quite yet what it'll be, but I think it'll be around as significant as last year, if not more or the same. So looking forward to that. So, check out the Discord if you haven't already. And, some people are forum people, some people are Discord people. And, that's totally cool, and I could see why. Because most of the younger gamer folks are going to be more about Discord than the traditional message board forums, 30-plus people like me and Mike. So, we totally understand that. And it's really convenient. It's really cool, especially if you're already on Steam, you're already in other Discord channels. It's very convenient. So let's go on ahead and go into the in-depth Bloodstained stuff we could talk about here. So what haven't they revealed yet that you're looking forward to seeing, Mike?
Well, I believe, and this is just my own hunch, that Zangetsu is going to be the second playable character. And as far as the third playable character, I don't really know. There's a lot of speculation going around. So I will be interested in seeing who they reveal for that. I really just wish they put Goofball in.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. Especially after we have Goofball Day on the forum. If you guys aren't familiar, Mike has another thing he's done with the forum, is that he has, on April Fool's Day, we have Goofball Day. And just Goofball is everywhere. It's a text filter where it replaces certain words with Goofball.
Yeah, and he graffitis the board, too.
It graffitis the board, he takes, a spot on the logo on top. And so Goofball is it's all about Goofball that day. And I thought it'd be really cool. You know how Bloodstained is supposed to have like the silly cheat codes. It'd be really funny if one of them had to do with Goofball, where you could like populate Goofball in the game like everywhere. Like maybe like certain enemies could be Goofballs now, or like Goofballs just show up out of candles, or they are.
Oh, that's a beautiful secret code idea. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I posted that on the forum a while back, but it's like one of my favorite ideas.
Yeah, I love that. Other things that I'm like super excited to know that won't be revealed probably until after it launches is I hope that, like the demo, we can crack that game open and get its root files and start replacing
mods.
textures and making mods. That's going to extend the game's life out so far if we're able to do that. You're going to be able to play it your way, you know?
Yeah, that would be really cool. And like you said, we had a lot for that when the demo released, more than I expected, of people taking what was there, because we didn't have. It didn't
mostly
seem like
fatigue,
we had.
yeah.
Yeah, mostly fatigue. It seemed like we didn't have that much to work from, but they got in there and fatigue dived in, and he data mined a lot of stuff and a lot of weapon categories and things that we didn't know about yet. That was really something. And of course, he did make the bots. He made the costumes for Miriam, the pure Miriam costume, and the blood red and black one, like the darker Miriam. Those two costumes are really cool. And of course, the other work he did and the contributions he made to the forum otherwise.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, Fatigue, if you were listening. And I suppose for myself, I as well am looking forward to the playable character reveals, and more than just who they are, what playstyle they have, because I'm wondering how they're going to represent the more classic character designs from Vania, since we have Miriam being kind of the Alucard / Soma type. Are the other ones going to be more of a classic Vania character? Are they going to be like a Belnades character? Or are they going to be kind of just a brawler? It'll be interesting to see. And also another thing I'm looking forward to seeing is more of the contributions from Ippo Yamada-san, because we've only actually heard that one Cursed Orphan song. And I think he's been changing that bit by bit as time went on, and that's still the only song that we've heard.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much Inti is involved. I hope that I really do hope that Yamada continues to pump out that music, because I loved what he had done.
That song, Yamada is actually involved. He actually wrote, if not all, a significant part of the Mega Man 2 soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what sounds familiar to a lot of people. Probably is like Wily Stage 1 and the Cursed Orphan song. It sounds kind of similar. Like it sounds like a Mega Man song. It has that adrenaline pumping vibe to it. It just sounds exciting. And I don't know how they're going to use that in Bloodstained, because it doesn't have that same kind of feel to it.
Well, I like the classic Vania kind of rock sometimes that you would get that you really don't get much more. I say that, but yeah, Yamane and the other composers she's worked with, they brought a lot of heavy metal type guitar to Symphony. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see more from him. Another thing that I'm looking forward to is seeing what their version of the Inverted Castle is going to be. I don't know if they're going to do another Inverted Castle, or like do a Hell Dimension that, after you're done, you go from this world to Hell where the castle was pulled from, or if it's just something that we just couldn't imagine because it's all coming straight out of his head. Like, no one expected the Inverted Castle the first time around. It will be hard to top an idea like that, but I am open to seeing what they do. And that's another staple for Igavania games, is he's like doing second castles, not necessarily inverted, but he's always got something up his sleeve to get the true ending. So I want to see what that's going to be. I'm anxious to experience that, and it's going to be hard for me not to spoil what it is, since I'm so intimately involved with the fandom.
It'll be very difficult to replicate the feeling that we felt with Symphony of the Night, the world being the way it was in 1997, 1998, to when you found that, like, you found it on your own, most likely. Like, if you heard about it, it was word of mouth by a friend, and they probably didn't even have the whole picture. Like, you had to piece it together. So the world back then was different enough to where the power and the nature of the discovery of it was so much more significant, and it meant that much more to you when you finally got around to it. Like, maybe you beat Richter and you thought you beat the game, and you just heard a passing conversation of maybe some other game fans.
Yeah, I'm
or
sure
whatever
that blew some people's minds back in the day.
Exactly, it happened to a lot of people. They're like, "Yeah, I beat that game. I thought it was kind of short. It was all right. I don't know why you fight that vampire hunter dude at the end. It was kind of weird." And then you're like, "Well, did you get the holy goggles, the holy glasses?" And you're like, "What are you talking about?" And you go back to it and you play it again. I only played half the darn game. And now you see what the big deal was. Like, wow, this is like one of the biggest twists in gaming of all time. So just the nature of how the world worked back then. We didn't have the internet. We didn't know those things. Even I guess unless you had a game guide. But I didn't start getting game guides until sometimes with game facts if I felt like it, which I usually didn't use that crap. But it's a lot different now. Everyone knows everything immediately. We have Let's Plays of the games before they're even out. We have people watching games instead of playing them that know everything about the game and like to argue with the people that actually have played the game. So, the world is different now. It's a kind of a pain in the butt. But it'll be interesting to see how they do that. And the last thing I wanted to talk about today is actually my idea for how they could do that.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about that now.
All right. Yeah, let's do that. So my idea is the Cursed Castle, is what I call it. And this topic does come up fairly often on the board, because we have an inkling that Iga may well be doing something like this, and I'm almost sure that he will. But, how will they accomplish it, and how will they keep it interesting, without it being like a ridiculous amount of work, too, right? Because, they're already doing the biggest castle ever, and, they're already kind of strained for resources. So the Cursed Castle, so maybe after what seems like... the end, like the fight with Jebel, that doesn't seem quite right. The castle is fully cursed, and what that means is giant crystal growths emerge everywhere that change the appearance and also the platforming dynamics of the game. So, the overall aesthetic of it would look more like stained glass everywhere. In color, almost kind of like Gemini Man stage from Mega Man 3, as far as the colors go. Just just beautiful shining reds and blues and, just greens everywhere. And the stained glass aesthetic they were really going for with the Kickstarter and the project in general. So what would happen is you have these new obstacles and abilities needed for traversal to break these crystals and to interact with the crystals. Some maybe jumps are higher, the terrain is different, there could be traps and hazards related to the spikes of crystals and stalagmites, stalactites of crystals falling and moving around. But more than anything, it would be beautiful. Beautiful but incredibly dangerous, as now, instead of having the goal of getting to the core of the castle to resolve the mystery and to find out what the relationship between Miriam and Jebel is all about. But now, instead of doing that, you have to escape it, because perhaps the weight of the curse or the curse itself is causing it to sink. So you have this, the crystals are everywhere now. It kind of takes over the aesthetic as well as how it interacts with the enemies. So they get stronger because the curse is stronger. You can see the crystals on them without them having to remodel things. They just kind of layer it on top of what's already there, as opposed to redesigning assets. It kind of just enhances what was there before, while also the crystals being there to move and change how the platforming is done and how you'll need to platform to get through things, while also being contextually, story-wise, making sense, and being aesthetically beautiful with the stained glass. And so this would all come about if you defeat Jebel a certain way, or don't kill him, how Symphony was. And I think this could be a great way to extend the playtime in a contextually sensible way that fits with the story and the themes, without per se developing a lot of new assets and changing the feel of the game by its platforming and overall appearance. It will be giving us more of a stained glass aesthetic to look at as well, and hopefully it would affect the enemies by making them more powerful and giving them the crystals sticking out. And we could get more things like crystal golems and dragons too, we've heard certain forum members suggest. So maybe there could be new enemies too, as well as remixed and powered up enemies, and just that are stronger now from the intensified curse of the castle that has now taken 100% hold of everything. And maybe you're trying to get away from Jebel at this point. Maybe he's gotten stronger, or maybe there's a real entity that is cursed the castle and trying to sink you with it, and you got to get out. So yeah, that's pretty much my idea.
Yeah, I like it. I like what Guacamelee did with their switching between two worlds on the fly. I've seen that implemented excellently in Titanfall 2, where they're switching between the present and the past. There's a lot of clever things you can do with world switching like that, and it basically doubles your playing environment. You could play through one way, play through the other way, and then play through again, switching between the two constantly. There's just so much that can be done. So we have no idea what Iga's going to do, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing if he's going to take anyone's suggestion and make it his own, or if he's just going to do something that we'd never expect.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just trying to. The main aspects I was looking at was something they could do that wouldn't add so much work on them, but would still change the way you play the game, but also make things stronger at the same time, and also be visually important as far as like being the stained glass, and also maybe tying into the story as well because of the curse. So I think there's a lot of cool ideas otherwise that we've heard on the forum too, like the submerged castle, like the water seeping in, or like the reflected castle, because you can see like the concept image of the castle is on the water, so you see the reflection of it on the bottom.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool things they could do there, but I'm really looking forward to that too, and I hope I'm surprised because I look forward to that big twist myself because I'm sure he's got something really cool planned. So about more about Bloodstained itself. I know you said you were thinking it was going to be like a symphony of the night, hopefully, in your mind, and I definitely agree with that. But what I think it might be, how I've seen Bloodstained so far, and from what I've played, what I've seen, and something I'm about to get into soon, is it really seems like a modern console high-def Dawn of Sorrow, and I'll go into more of that soon, but that's definitely not a bad thing. Because like the way that the shard system works is a lot how the soul system worked in Dawn of Sorrow, and the other things relating to how the game's characters may work, and I'm about to get into that too regarding Dominique. But you've played Dawn of Sorrow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that game
liked
was really. Say what?
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. I mean, one of the things about that game that turned a lot of people off, and even me included, was the change in artwork. The art aesthetic became more anime, as they like to say, and that prevented me actually myself from playing Portrait of Ruin for a while. But once I got more into it and I got over that basically, because at first I only bought Portrait of Ruin for the extras that came with it, the little extra package that had the poster and the soundtrack.
Yeah,
and
I've got that. I love it.
Yeah, that's the main reason I got Portrait of Ruin. But then after a while, I was like, man, this game actually sounds pretty good. And when I started playing it, it's now one of my favorites. So Portrait of Ruin and Dawn of Sorrow. But so I guess we'll go ahead and go straight into the thoughts on the recently revealed characters. And this goes into the update that we just had. So like I was just saying, for Dominique, putting 2 and 2 together here, or more than 2 and 2, it's more like 37 and 84. Like it's in my brain. It makes sense. So bear with me here. So I think that Dominique, I think she will be much like the Yoko Belnades of the game, and the reason I think that is they're very similar in these certain aspects, in that Yoko primarily runs a shop in that game. That's her the main ability that she has. She runs a store. But the thing about Yoko is that she had the ability to draw out power from demon shards to well, not shards, but souls, to augment them into new weapons. Now, this could be just the same as what Dominique does, because she is described as an exorcist from the church. Yoko is from the church. Exorcist, extract.
So as Miriam's getting more powerful, she's also gaining more crystals on her body. You think that maybe she can remove some of that? And if
that is a possibility as well.
Maybe that you lose, you die.
That's a good point, and that might actually tie into the best ending or the good ending for the game if Dominique is somehow able to exorcise demons or demon shards from Miriam's body. You might be onto something there. But mainly for the gameplay, or the main role of Dominique from the game, I think she might be actually tied into the crafting system too. Yeah, because
it would make sense.
So what Yoko does is she takes the souls from your inventory and makes new weapons out of them. And if an exorcist could extract demonic power and entities from something, she could take the entities from the soul, the shards themselves, and use that for the crafting process in the game. So it sounds similar to me in that person from the church with holy powers, holy magic, that runs a shop. And given the other contextual similarities of the shards with the souls, it sounds like Iga's trying to do a modern high-def Dawn of Sorrow with this aspect at least. And the clues from this also are from the as-of-yet unrevealed special attacks. So I'm thinking maybe these weapons that have the special demon shard abilities might be the ones that have the specials tied to them.
Yeah, that would make sense. And, I think you got it nailed, dude.
Yeah, and that would make sense as far as the crafting, you add special attacks to maybe certain weapons that Dominique allows you to use, and this also relates to Iga's answer to my question in the last Ask Iga video. like the way he described that sounded kind of like what I'm talking about, because I asked him about sub weapons, like CASTLEVANIA sub weapons.
Yeah, and then Steve put that animation in there with the daggers.
And Steve gave me the eye daggers.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was me. I'm Brent Taylor. That was my Twitter question. And so what Iga's answer to that question was, though, is like, well, we don't actually have that, but we have kind of the special, like, shard ability attacks in the game. I can't remember exact wording of what he said, but it sounds similar to what I was just describing. So I would not be surprised at all if that's what it was, where he incorporated Dominique's exorcism abilities and the shard powers with what Yoko did in Dawn of Sorrow with the soul extraction and adding those to weapons.
Yep.
So yes, makes sense, right?
I think it makes total sense. Yes. Fits like a missing piece in a puzzle, just pow, right in there. Yeah. When
you got somebody like me that like thinks about this stuff way too much and like has played these games way too much, like those things just occur to me like that. But I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but it makes sense to me when I was like in the shower and looking.
We'll see.
Oh man,
I don't think we'll be disappointed regardless of what he does.
Oh heck no. And just like Yoko too, she became playable in a separate mode for the game. So what happens with Dominique apparently in Bloodstained is that Anne runs the shop when she's not there. So that opens up the possibility for Dominique to be playable. And in Dawn of Sorrow, you had what they called Julius mode. And actually, for the classic mode suggestions for Bloodstained, we have a lot of people bring up Castlevania 3 and how you switch between characters during the gameplay. And that's exactly what Julius mode was. You switch between Julius, Yoko, and Alucard himself. And it's pretty much like Castlevania 3 redone, to where it's like Trevor, Alucard, and Sypha in that game. Like they're almost the same characters.
Nice.
So that's like the same thing. So Castlevania 3, Dawn of Sorrow, Julius mode, and there might be that in Bloodstained, but I'm not sure. It just depends on how they like to incorporate that, because it sounds like they're trying to do more of the linear stage elements and all that kind of stuff, which, Julius mode actually used most everything from the main game of Dawn of Sorrow. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that, but I would like to see Dominique playable because I think she looks cool, and her design doesn't bother me either. Like, even as a Christian guy myself, I like her aesthetic. I think she looks cool, and I hope she has...
It's not a sin to have big old titties.
Well, I don't think they're that ridiculous either. And like on her in-game model, I think they're going to be downplayed a bit. Like, how Miriam's look really big, like that first few pictures we got.
Yeah.
But as time went on, like you can't really see that her boobs are that big, and like current gameplay, like you don't even really see them. Like they don't really pop out either. But I think it'll look much different on screen when Dominic is playable, and they might actually even redesign her a little bit too. There's the Inti Creates artist guys. They like some boobs apparently, but
nothing... Japanese developers seem to really, they're not in the same kind of conversation they're having in the U.S. So I don't fault Japanese for doing their thing, and I don't fault the U.S. conversation for their opinions. I'm happy with whatever I get. I don't care any way about it. It's a non-issue to me.
And you think about like 80% of the enemies in the E3 demo level are like gooey tentacle monsters. So yeah, but I think that it makes sense. They're on a ship. I mean, that's how it is. And speaking of that, I think Vepar's design is really cool, and I hope it doesn't change that much going forward.
Well, it's definitely going to change. I just don't know what those changes are going to be.
Exactly. So, anyways, more about Dominique. Story-wise, it struck me as odd that Dominique apparently had to encourage Johannes to summon Miriam.
Yeah, that was an odd little statement in the update. We've had these two factions that we've been focused on the whole time. We've had the scientists, they've kind of brought truth to the world, and they were at, that this threatened the power of the alchemists. So I thought that these two factions would be the main antagonists and protagonists of the story, but now they brought in Dominique is sent from the church, and apparently she has some kind of relation to Johannes and some kind of influence and familiarity with him. And then they brought in this other character that is definitely on the alchemist faction.
Alfred. Yeah.
Yes, Alfred looks like he's just he was involved in the summoning of the demons 10 years prior, so he's obviously an evil guy. He's after basically the alchemy Bible, so that Jeeble has. So yeah, I think that we're starting to see the fringes of the story starting to come together, and maybe see what conflicts might and motivations might be kind of underneath everything.
Yeah, and because I assumed from the concept art and the details we had seen so far about Miriam, Johannes, and Jebel that they were pretty close. So it seems kind of odd that Dominique would have to step in and kind of put a whisper in Johannes's ear for doing something with Miriam. Like, was he going to be content to just leave her as she was, like in the comatose state she was in, or it seemed kind of odd. Yeah, who knows? It seems like the dynamics of these characters' relationships will be very integral to the story and how it plays out. Like, I think, especially Miriam and Jebel, like, their dynamic will be a big thing. And, of course, like, Dominique and Johannes are kind of secondary to how that's going to play out. And a last bit about Dominique, looking forward to her gameplay, because I'm a big fan of the... If she's playable. I hope she is, and I hope she has something kind of like the traditional Belnades style character design, where she has the 3 spells: Holy Fire, Blue Splash, which is like the Holy Ice, and Holy Lightning, and those might be familiar to you if you've played any of the games that feature those characters. And actually, my character in the Castlevania D&D, I'm trying to get those in Elias too, and he's almost got them all.
Yeah. And speaking of that game, it's coming up tonight, and we're about at our 2-hour mark, so perhaps we should start wrapping it up.
Let's see. Yep, I've got 151. Yep, on mine. So let's see. I think we could wrap this up pretty quickly here. So yeah, Alfred. Not much said for him yet. Not much to go off on, but the interesting rose pattern on the front of his robe, as we mentioned before, and it's interesting how he is the only character to not have his back shown on the concept art on the Kickstarter update. How Anne and Dominic both, like, they had profile, like, front and side shown, but
that's just because we need to see all the curves of the females. Alfred's just an old man. We don't care. He looks like a guy in a robe from behind.
And the thing about that too is you can like surmise most everything about his design from the side view because it's a robe, so you can kind of see everything. But I don't know, there might be something to that. But it seems like he could be a villain, and it's important to note that he was a father figure to Miriam and Johannes. And,
I didn't catch that, but Fafi on the boards caught that the name of the tome that he's after from Jebel is some kind of Enochian language or Enochian language. Yeah. And that's what the Kickstarter hints were. They used that script in the Kickstarter hints that they translated back when they put those on, like, the Castlevania dungeon and elsewhere. And those are also the symbols that are drawn around Miriam's, her crystals to kind of contain them. So, yeah, it's cool because that's an actual book, the book that was mentioned in the Kickstarter. And Fafi pointed that out, so that was good on him. Yeah, that book is called the Liber Loagaeth, and that means Book of Speech from God. It's actually an angelic language that they speculate was the original intended language of the world that Adam would have spoken, like in the Garden of Eve. So it's actually a really a magical, like, mystical language that alchemists kind of seek out to be able to speak while they're doing their alchemy lab tests and the things that they try to endeavor in creating, gold or whatever else they're doing. So yeah, perhaps that's what everyone spoke before the Tower of Babel, maybe.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And like you said, like, they use those runes of the Enochian language for things in the game, for the Kickstarter itself. What a wonderful night to have a Kickstarter image, the teaser image. So that's very interesting. So moving forward some more here. Past Alfred, we have Anne, and there's not much to talk about with Anne. We've already talked about her a little bit, where she might be she's going to run the shop when Dominique is not there for whatever reason. And while she does have somewhat of a resemblance to Sonia Belmont, as some have pointed out, Ego wasn't involved in that game, and I can't imagine her as a prominent character yet. Maybe eventually, but not right now. Any thoughts on Anne, Mike?
No, not really.
Yeah, she seems like just kind of a more background NPC than the other two. But
she was saved by Miriam and Dominique.
Oh yeah, Dominique.
Yeah. So apparently, the village scene that we saw, we can probably expect to see her be saved then and introduced, and probably Dominique introduced at that point as well.
Yeah, and these characters may be represented in the prequel minigame too. For all we know, they could be part of that as well.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice to see.
So Moving forward from that, theories on existing characters. So maybe this is before I even knew Dominic was a thing that I wrote this, but just as Miriam is like the first female Alucard Soma type, I was thinking maybe Jebel could be the first male mage type, because before now the Belnades clan has been all female, and they've been all the mages. So maybe if Miriam is the female Soma Alucard, then Jebel is the male mage caster.
Well, I guess. Alucard, he used a lot of magic, too.
Alucard did use a lot of magic. It wasn't very good, but he did have a lot of spells.
Come on, Metamorphosis.
Soul Steal is pretty darn good, especially in the early game. But as time went on, you didn't even really need it.
Hellfire,
and like his other spells,
it was all cool.
It was definitely cool. Hellfire is not good at all, like as far as like what you're going to use to beat enemies, but it looked cool as hell.
Yeah.
And then Johannes, if he's a playable character, which I kind of doubt he is, but if he is, it could be kind of a different take on that formula too, because he could be kind of an unusual, less brutish Belmont type, if that's a thing.
Oh, you know what? He probably will be he'll probably be considered the second playable character in Zangetsu the Third. So don't look forward to Dominique. I bet that's the trio right there.
Well, you might be right. I think it might be actually more balanced to have 2 males and 1 female, but. I would be fine with it either way. I would be fine with all females, but I could see that being true. And I like the Belmont archetype, and I could see him being kind of in that role. He does have a whip as part of his concept art.
Yeah.
And I think people like ignoring that because
I thought he looked a little too bookish for me to
He does look bookish, but maybe he's like Iga himself, like he's hiding this intensity inside him. You just don't know yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Anyway, so and I imagine Zangetsu will be playable. I can't imagine he's not playable, and I think he's going to play like Getsu Fuma. I don't know if you're familiar with Getsu Fuma Den, but the older Konami developer guys, they love that character. They put him in the Harmony of Despair as one of the DLC characters, and the actual DLC stage based around Getsu Fuma. And that guy is a demon samurai guy that fights like with he has like a kanji character projectile thing, kind of like the Afuda characters on Zangetsu, and he's a samurai dude, and he's red colored. And, it's like, I think Iga's trying to sneak Getsu Fuma back into Castlevania. But I would look forward to that though, because he's like more of a classic Vania style character too, because that game is almost like a Ninja Gaiden / Castlevania adventure game. The map is like Mario 3, and you go in and do like a Zelda 2 or Castlevania 2 adventure. But so that would be cool to see. And beyond that, last thing I was going to talk about was the Crystal Rose drops as the new hearts.
Oh yeah, the new candle drops.
The new candle drops are the Crystal Roses, and this is interesting to me for one main reason. The Crystal Roses are the new hearts, which if they remain as iconic as hearts were in Castlevania, it seems in itself to hint that either Miriam will star in multiple games, or that in multiple games the Crystal Curse will be central to the main character's power, because it won't make sense for the Crystal Roses to be iconic as the new hearts if they don't relate to the nature of the game and what the character uses.
Yeah, but they could remake those instead of roses in a sequel if it doesn't match. If they want to go to a different direction, those could easily be replaced with something else. But
they could easily be.
It really fits the theme of Bloodstained with the roses.
It does. So if they keep kind of the same theme, and if they want to keep kind of like equalizing hearts with the roses, if they want to do that, then it would make sense to like further characters down the line either being Miriam or someone like Miriam, because it wouldn't make sense for like random X dude to get like the Crystal Roses to power up his special moves if he doesn't have the Crystal Curse. So that could kind of hint to the future of the franchise. And lastly, yay on mine and Astaroth's hopes coming true in that, because we were hoping that would be a thing, that there would be like a falling leaf pattern kind of drop from candles, and it turned out to be the Crystal Roses, and that's what we hypothesized would be what dropped, was like a little crystal rose I thought it would be a petal, but it turned out to be a whole little rose thing, and that's really cool. So hooray for us, and shout outs to Astaroth, of course. She has a lot of great posts on the forum. And
shout out to all of our posters on the forums, and anyone who listens to the show, please just leave us comments, give us feedback, let us know that you made it this far.
Yeah, we appreciate it, guys, and thank you all for listening, and thank you, Mike, for being here with me and this opportunity you gave me. And it's been a great talk, great interview. And anybody out there that has further questions or comments or whatever, we're always open to hear them, and you can find us on the boards.
So how do I get off the ceiling? This inverted episode, it's going to be tough to get out of.
Well, I don't know how you got up there anyway, because you're a zombie. Like, you're not the most dexterous of people, so you're going to figure that one out yourself. I think you're just extra sticky, so maybe I can pull you down.
Yeah, the power's in the beard. That's where all my powers...
I'm growing a beard too now, actually.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, we can have a beard battle.
All right, well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and, I'll see you on the forums.
All right, bye, guys. Thank you all.
And thank you, Brent.
No problem, man.